just as good as if you do everything well in an interview, if you do one thing that's really bad, it could potentially completely screw up everything you just did. So yeah. Do not wing it. Specifically, come very prepared. Don't try to improvise when you go in. Kind of have a plan of approach of what you want to do once you're actually in the scenario of the interview. Never mind like your appearance, just mentally you should kind of be focused on the task at hand of getting the job, not only just going to the interview itself. Specifically, you shouldn't be late. You should be at least 15 minutes early. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, don't even bother showing up. If you show up, it shows that you just really don't care at all, and obviously that's not a good quality to portray to the future employer you might go with. You should obviously come in dressed very well. Do not show up in gym attire. As soon as you walk in, like I already said, people are going to judge you the second they see you. If they see you in like a t-shirt and shorts, it's not going to be a very good display of your personality and your work ethic. So just come prepared, and if you're dressed the part, go act the part. A lot of stuff's going to be thrown at you while you're getting interviewed. A lot of questions. Just try to do your best to kind of filter out and process what they're actually asking you and answer the question accordingly. Don't go off on a tangent. Stay very direct in your response and give them a clear, concise answer. If you're nervous, you should, before you actually say something, just kind of slow it down and just kind of breathe and be focused on the task at hand. Don't just kind of just blurt out anything you're thinking and just nervously just give it a jitter. It's normal to be nervous, but you really should just think before you speak in an interview. And even though you are answering a lot of questions that are behavioral based and they're kind of getting a personality and feeling you out, I would very much refrain from getting into deep personal troubling matters. You kind of keep it like light, don't really get into very dramatic events in your life that just kind of weird. Don't lie on your resume or in your job interview. If you lie, never mind if you get caught or you don't, if you're untrustworthy and in the eyes of the employer, you're not a worthy candidate. They won't really, once you don't have someone's trust anymore, it's very, very hard to get it back. So just don't lie, simple as that. It's very natural to be nervous when you're going into most situations, let alone a job interview. So just it's a hard task to kind of like master because everyone's gonna be nervous, but just try to breathe. Like they'll know that you're gonna be nervous. Just breathe and kind of just give a straight, concise answer. And try not to come off as you're needy. If you come off kind of needy and desperate, it'll just make yourself look even more nervous. And if you're prepared enough, you really shouldn't be too nervous because you know you're confident in your ability, prepared for this job interview, and you should be able to get the job.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and I'm going to be telling you about the preparation portion of your interview and all that you need to accomplish beforehand so that your interview goes as well as possible. Interviews are super important. They're the first step in your ultimate goal of getting that job or career that you've been wanting. Many people don't understand that preparing for an interview is just as crucial as the interview itself. The first thing you're going to want to do in preparation for an interview is research the company. You want to know as much as possible going in there, and this could potentially help you later when they're asking you questions because you'll be able to answer them more confidently and correctly. Next, you should probably print a couple copies of your resume that you sent to the company to bring with you. There's a possibility that the person interviewing you didn't bring it with them and they want to reference something or look back and have a hard copy in front of them. So you should have it just in case they ask for it. Something that's great to have with you is a Padfolio. You can use this to take notes during your interview, keep your resume in there, a business card, or if the employer who's interviewing you gives you a business card, you can put it in there, and it just keeps things more professional than bringing a notebook. Appearance is very important for your interview, and you don't want to wait until the day of to scramble and get something together. So make sure you have an outfit laid out beforehand, and you want to get haircut, nails done, all of that before the day of so that you're just ready to go that morning.
And guys can get pedicures too. No, wait. Manicures. They get pedicures too.
You also want to prepare for things like the handshake and how you're going to introduce yourself because it shows you're confident and it starts things off on the right foot because it's the first thing you're going to do. You also want to make sure that you know exactly where you're going for the interview. Get directions the night before and plan out how you're going to get there. Make sure that you leave with enough time to get there at least 15 minutes early because you don't want to be late. Going into an interview can be extremely stressful. You're not sure what they're going to ask you. So by doing research for the company, you will be able to anticipate questions possibly. But you should look up general questions just in case and have answers set to those so you never know what they're going to ask you. Going into an interview cold is never a good idea. You want to ask a friend or a family member to practice with you beforehand. You can look up questions, like I said, and just have them ask you those so you get comfortable saying the answers aloud and to another person. So last summer, I had my first kind of real interview for a summer internship I did at an insurance agency. I was extremely nervous because before that, I'd only worked in malls or the beach or something like that, and interviews for those are much more informal. So I found personally that practicing before I went in was the most helpful thing I could have done. I asked my older brother to help me because he's been to plenty of interviews before, gotten internships, jobs, and so he knew what I was going to be going into and he could help me out by giving me tips and everything. It was kind of funny because we didn't really take each other seriously and we just laughed the whole time at each other, but that was good because it was the night before and I was freaking out. And that kind of took my mind off of it and eased my nerves. And also the practicing and even though joking around helped me the next day stay calm and good during the actual interview. There's nothing worse than getting nervous when you don't know how to answer a question that they ask you and you start using filler words such as like and So you want to make sure to practice taking a pause when you don't know what to say and clarifying your thoughts before you speak. You also want to incorporate into your practicing things like projecting your voice and making eye contact because that's definitely something the interviewer is going to be looking for. That doesn't really come naturally to most people, so definitely practice that before you go in. Another thing you want to make absolutely sure of is getting a good night's sleep. You don't want to be out the night before, staying up all night, partying, anything like that. Make sure you go to bed at a reasonable time and set multiple alarms so that you are awake and ready on time the next day. On the day of the interview, you want to remember to stay calm and know that you did all the necessary preparation for that day. You should have everything packed and sitting by the door so that all you have to do is get up, get dressed, and grab it and go. Remember that they are just people too, and there's nothing to be afraid of. They're just trying to get to know you beyond the resume that you handed them. So be yourself, stay calm, and let them see why you deserve to have the job. In summary, going for any type of job interview is incredibly stressful. You've usually never met the person interviewing you, you've never been there before, you don't know what they're going to ask or how you're going to answer, which adds a lot of extra stress. So you really want to make sure that you're prepared before. And with all of that, you'll be ready to go. So, hi.
Hi, my name is Leticia, and I'm going to talk about what to wear for an interview, what not to wear, and some tips for both men and women. And keep in mind that a job interview is your first opportunity to make a great first impression, and you have to ask yourself if you're prepared to look the part. So when thinking about what to wear, you need to remember that you must look professional and polished. Your interview attire does depend on the type of company that you're going for, and you should always look clean, neat, and well-dressed. Now let's talk about professional attires for women. A great tip is to have a really good classic black slacks. With this, you can wear almost anything with. You can wear a blouse or a button-up, and it's just like a classic look that you can really just pull off with an interview. You can dress it up or dress it down, so it could be business casual or business professional. Now button-downs, we can make them more fun by using different fabrics and different colors, nothing too bold. You can make it more fun by adding layers and having camisole to layer with your button-up. Blazers are very important for interviews too. You can make so many outfits out of it. You can wear button-ups with it, blouses, you can wear a dress. It just makes you look very professional for any occasion. With blouses, you can wear skirts with them and mix and match with colors and patterns. It even makes dark wash jeans look more professional. This final look is popular and yet a very professional and sometimes even casual business look. It's black. It's a black dress or any neutral dress with tights. You should, when you do wear a dress, you should always try to wear tights underneath, even if it's the summer. With dresses, you want to do like a subtle texture pattern. If you do a pattern, you want to stay away from fishnets or anything that looks like it. Now let's talk about professional attires for men. Men's fashion is actually pretty straightforward and actually easy. You don't have to spend a lot to look business professional. A gray suit is actually a very safe choice when you go to a interview, and it's very stylish. Blazers are actually also essential for men, and they are great with also anything. It makes a attire look professional or casual. You can pair it with khakis, chinos, slacks, and it'll look modern and timeless. Another essential is button-downs. Button-downs are very casual, but also if you add a suit with it, it looks very professional. When you pick button-downs, you can pick any like patterns really, but you want to pick subtle patterns so that you don't distract your interviewer. A staple look is a white button-down with a gray or black slacks. It's a very easy look to put together and also not very expensive. With this, you can wear a patterned or a plain tie or even shirt. But you should make sure it's wrinkle-free and also clean, so you want to press your pants. Here you want to make sure that your nails and your hands look good so that it tells the interviewer gets a feel of how clean you are, and you want to make sure that your facial hair is also very tidy. To finish off, I want to give you guys some advice. You want to make sure that your outfit fits you well, and you don't want to have something too tight where you can't sit down and you're not comfortable, or something too baggy where you know that you weren't prepared to come to the interview. And also you want to stay away from really strong smelling perfumes because you never know if your interviewer has an allergy. It's also very distracting. So summer interviews can be very confusing because you don't want to wear a heavy suit or anything very heavy outdoors. With this, you can make the mistake of looking too casual. So you want to stay away from any like t-shirts and jeans. You want to try to go for a casual business look. You also want to make sure that your makeup is clean and more natural looking, nothing too heavy to keep the interviewer from staring. And finally, I want to talk about the video interviews. You want to make sure that you're not only dressing from your waist up. You want to make sure that you're dressing for the part. You never know if you have to get up and pick something up, or if you forgot something. You just want to dress for the part and feel the part. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Kemlyn and I will be talking about the interview questions asked during an interview. So far we've talked about the do's and don'ts, the preparation, what to wear. And so in my part of the presentation, I'll be talking about icebreaker questions, behavioral-based questions, common questions asked, what you should and shouldn't ask, and what interviewers can ask. The point of an icebreaker question is to make employees feel comfortable to give an honest answer. And it begins a relationship building process. This is where you are giving your chance to make a first impression. So you really just want to be open and honest and make a great first impression. Behavioral-based questions are questions we've learned about so far. The purpose of them is to focus on how you've handled various work situations in the past. This allows your behaviors in the past to reflect and predict future behaviors. This reveals your skills, abilities, and also allows them to see how your personality is. One of the most common ones is to tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer and how did you handle it. For me, I worked at this is Sea Salt Restaurant in Cape May. This is the pool bar that I worked at. I typically handle this whole bar by myself, and it's the tiki bar over there and then the whole entire pool, so it tends to get very busy, and it's a lot to handle on a hot summer day. So one time a customer ordered the wrong item, and they asked to send it back. So I offered to give them a new one, and instead they insisted to just forget about the whole entire thing, and they were about to get up and leave without paying their tab with the items that they had ordered already. So with this, I went and got my manager, and fortunately, the guy ended up apologizing for how he acted, and my manager insisted that everything was okay, and the customer ended up leaving satisfied. Another one is, have you ever made a mistake, and how did you handle it? This is Willow Creek Winery. This is a winery that I worked at over the summer. They offer tours 3 times a day, and they also get very busy in the summer. I was booking a tour one time, and this was my first time doing it, and I scheduled it for the wrong time, and they ended up missing their tour, and I owned up to the situation completely, and my manager just made sure that she comped the customer's trip, and luckily they were very understanding as well. So common questions are, what is your greatest strength? With this, just identify strengths with the company's needs. List your qualifications that match their skills. An example of this can be, I'm a skilled salesman with over 10 years of experience. I exceed set goals and earned bonuses since I started. Another one is, what are your greatest weaknesses? With this, always turn your negatives into positives. Analyze key skills and be honest. An example can be, if you're applying for a nursing job, you might share that you're not good at presenting. This just shows that although presenting might be a weakness for you, it's not necessarily an important factor when being a nurse. Another one is how well do you work under pressure? Just give a specific example with this. Talk about if pressure is a motivation or an obstacle for you. An example can be, I tend to thrive under pressure. It forces me to focus, come up with a plan. One time my boss gave me 24 hours to come up with a presentation for our CEO, and I was able to calm myself down and give the presentation without a problem. Another common question is, why should we hire you? With this, just give 3 to 4 bullet points for your answer. Talk about your experiences, your accomplishments, awards, training, and the skills that you have. A response that you can give with this is, I have the experience and attitude to excel in this position. I have almost 2 years of experience in my internships, and I'm excited to learn and get experience in every way possible. In your interview, it's definitely important to ask questions towards the end. There are some questions that you should avoid asking. This may be anything related to salary or benefits, questions that begin with why, because this might put people on the defense. Don't ask about who their competitor is, if you can arrive early or leave late, if you can work from home or any promotions. Don't worry about this until after the offer is given to you. But there are some questions that you definitely should ask. These include, this shows that you're interested and that you've been paying attention and that you are prepared. You can ask, can you explain the company culture to me? What do you like most about working for this company? And give some examples of some collaboration in this company. There are some questions that employers are not allowed to ask you. This can be anything regarding nationality, race, religion, age. They can ask, are you a U.S. citizen? How long do you plan to work before you retire? How old are you? What religion do you practice? Which religious holidays do you observe? They can ask about your family status, your marital status, your gender, your health. This can include, is this your maiden name? Do you have or do you plan to have kids? How do you feel about supervising men or women? And do you smoke or drink? How tall are you? Do you have any disabilities? So there are going to be times when interviews go wrong. When this happens, just reflect on your experience. You could have been nervous, you could have stuttered, you could have lied, you might not have been yourself. Everyone has bad days. Unfortunately, people are willing to give you a second chance. So with this, just follow up with a thank you email. In this email, just briefly explain what went wrong. It could have been, a family emergency. You could have been sick. You can always provide a doctor's note. Just emphasize your interest in the job and offer to meet a second time. You can always do a phone interview as well. And with that, I just like to give you guys some advice. Just be prepared for your interview overall, as we've talked about. Know about the company, know about the knowledge or the culture, the qualifications. Practice with some common questions, like I've said. What I like to do is I like to come up with at least 3 questions that I can ask the interviewer, just so it shows that I'm prepared. Next up, we have Lisa.
Okay, so chances are we followed up with all the advice that you already got in the following presentations from my teammates that you are gonna nail a second interview. And technically, follow-up interviews are usually requested by the employer to determine whether a candidate makes a good cultural fit for the company. So it's important to prepare as you would for the first interview. Now, in the follow-up interview is typically all about getting to know you on both a personal and professional level. So when interviewed, your prospective employer wants to know if you can handle the details of the job and if you're going to fit in with the company. The second interview might be more relaxed, one-on-one, or a panel of people asking you questions. One of the first things to do is to review your performance from the first interview. So you have to think back to the key points that your potential employer made in the first interview. Take another look at the job description and start coming up with responses to the same sorts of questions you already had. So in the follow-up interview, you would be asked deeper questions about your work history, personality, and how you'll handle the job. So your potential employer might quiz you on your technical skills or want you to dig into the reasons why you think you'd fit in at the company. Some of the questions that the employer might ask you are, tell me again what interests you about this job and what skills and strengths you plan to bring to it. So The best way to answer that would be in the context of contributions that you can make to the company. Another question would be like, what was the most difficult decision you ever had to make on the job? So you want to make sure your answer fits the company culture. Another question that you don't want to catch you off guard is about salary. So they might ask, what would you consider an acceptable salary for this position? So you want to be ready to discuss what you feel you should be earning as soon as the subject is raised, and expect to talk money. Another thing you want to expect to talk about is benefits. So you might want to ask them about like certain benefits they provide. Do they provide flex time? Do they provide telecommuting? And any other perks that they might have, like childcare facilities, gym memberships. You might just want to ask things about that. Another thing that you can expect from a second interview is off-the-wall questions. So it could be anything like, if you were stranded on an island, what's the one item you would want to have with you and why? So some employers enjoy asking these tricky questions to see how well you think on your feet. And they test your problem-solving skills and reveal a bit about your personality. So I'm a teller at TD Bank, but before that I used to work with little kids in Atlantic Care Kids down by Atlantic City. And one of the questions that I got asked was, name 3 positive traits you don't possess. So that's like an example of a crazy question they might ask you. So when you apply for certain technical creative positions, you're often asked to showcase your skills on the spot. So this may be in addition to any portfolio or samples you may have already brought in. And it probably won't be anything too complicated unless you're like an engineer and they ask you to do anything like blueprints or anything like that. It'll most likely be something very simple. And it's also not uncommon for a second interview to include a few other people in your department, or end with a short tour. And here the employer wants to see how well you will get along with other team members with whom you'll be interacting every day. This is an opportunity to show like your interpersonal communication skills. And just as in the first interview, asking questions is just as important. So you can conduct a quick online search, such as Fortune's common questions you should ask to get an idea of what questions you should be asking employers. To be sure you really want to work where you're interviewing at, ask any questions that help you make you feel confident in your choice. So expect to discuss the next steps. So at the end of the interviewer will likely tell you what happens next and when you will hear from them, or they could offer you the position on the spot. So if you don't get a call back, because sometimes it takes longer than expected, what you would want to do is you would make a phone call or even write an email, and in the email you'll reiterate the time that you interviewed and your interest in the position that you interviewed for. So chances are you probably interview with different people in your second round, so you should still send out another round of thank you notes when the interview is over. Before leaving the interview, you should grab a business card from the person or people that interviewed you and follow up the same way as you did in the first interview. So this is an example of like a thank you letter for the interview. It's important to reiterate that it was an enjoyable experience, to speak about the position. You want to reiterate your enthusiasm in the job, and you always want to appreciate the time that the employer spent interviewing you. And when you want to accept the offer, there's 2 ways that you can do that. Like you can do it both by email, but there's one way that you can do it for accepting the offer, and another way that you could do it for when you want to reject the job. So rejecting the job offer, you still want to thank them for interviewing you for the position. You want to reiterate that you appreciate their time in talking to you, but you also want to just let them know, like, easy, tell them you've got another position, another opportunity, another company. And just like in the first interview, you want to prepare yourself in the same manner. You want to make sure you get a good night's sleep, and you want to make sure that you eat well ahead of time. And during the interview, be courteous and keep your answers concise, and don't shy away from small talk. And so all of this together, everything that me and my teammates all said, should help you whenever you're going out into the the workforce for yourself as an interviewer or yourself as an interviewee?
Very good. This is happening. All right, be about 5 minutes while I can upload this if you want to take a break.
This looks heavier than it looks.
What's that?
It's heavier than it looks. When I first picked
Oh,
it up,
right.
I was like,
Oh, monster.
I just gotta sign out on my Gmail.
Chat.